This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. And by the way, Chad, I agree with you on Zappa. Even though I'm not a fan necessarily of his music, his musicianship was elite. And a lot of the people that played with Zappa also, you could not be a schmuck and play with Zappa. So I agree with you. And Cucurella was one of the guys that played with Zappa. If you play with Zappa, you knew your shit. There's no doubt about that. All right, Cam, how you feeling, baby? You racing out to enjoy the Tuesday?
Yeah, man. I got you got a game at 2:00, right?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, did you see the video I sent you?
Oh yeah. I saw it, man. It's cool.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It is a cool video. It is a cool video. Now it was done, like 4 or 5 days ago. So I'm just wondering. Well, he's had a lot of time to produce the video. So I'm just saying, got a lot of time off.
Yeah.
But it's nice. So let me ask you, what do you know about Byron Jones? What do we know? Is there any news whatsoever?
Well, I know that he likes Porsches and he has an old school Porsche. I've said it before, and again, I don't think that the Dolphins or their fans should expect Byron Jones to be back this season. From what I understand, it is more than just the Achilles. And I've told you that before, but it's not just the Achilles that's bothering him in this situation. And so you hear me?
Yeah. He's had other setbacks.
Yeah. And so that's sort of the play here. If I was a betting man, which I am not NFL, I do not bet. I cannot bet on sports. But if I was a betting man, I would say that Byron Jones has played his last snap as a Dolphin.
Wow. So he's not even going to be able to play to try to help himself out in the offseason.
So I haven't nothing's been ruled out, right? You hear Mike McDaniel saying there's optimism, there's hope, and I could certainly see, if things make a turn, that maybe he comes back at some time in the stretch. But it's already been 3 months, 4 months longer than they expected. And there hasn't been any significant update to say, hey, he's getting close or he's a couple of weeks away. I haven't heard anything of that sort. And, I'm not even sure how much he's fully been here every day. And so, I think there's a lot of things that he's dealing with on the injury side of things. And so, maybe, like I said, I think usually in March they have to make a call on, keeping guys. I have to look at what his contract looks like and when it becomes fully, if there's any guarantees, dates that he has to do there. But if not, then I could certainly see him being a guy where either they come to him with a restructure or a trade opportunity, or maybe it's a situation you're making $14-15 million and we haven't seen you play in over a year. We like what we see in Cater. I could certainly see that being a situation where they say, hey, we're just gonna move on.
All right. Yeah, I think they're going to move on. I think they're going to. He might be even a June casualty. They might even split.
So I'm saying I have to look at his deal. I'm not sure. A lot of times, if he doesn't have any guarantees that hit at a certain date, then sometimes it's like if you're on the roster for the 5th day of the league year, then you get so and so. I haven't seen his contract, so I'm not sure. But I'd imagine if there is one of those, then he would. They would have to make a decision before that. If not, then obviously they could see him work out in the offseason to see how he looks and maybe make a call later if he doesn't. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The Teron Armstead stuff. How lucky did they get? Because obviously it's not a tear, but it is a strain. So a strain could be some kind of a tear, right? It could be.
Yeah, usually a strain is a partial tear to an extent, right? It's kind of like when you have a sprained knee, it's a slight tear, a slight rip, but not a full deal. And so it's big for them that Teron's not out for a year. Usually when you hear pec, that's the first thing you think. He tore it and he's done. If he tore it fully, there's no doubt he would be out for the year, no hope for anything. And so I think there is some optimism. Teron's a tough dude. I'm sure he would love to play this week if they let him play. But I think the reality is that if you're the Dolphins, you say, hey, take your time, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however we'd love to have you back for the Buffalo game. That would be the date I would circle and say, hey, that would be perfect. If not, we'd love to have you back whenever you can get back. As long as it's by the playoffs, it would be great, And so they're going to have a tough time without him, starting this week. They're playing a really good 49ers front. I mean, Nick Bosa, Armstead on that other side, the other Armstead, he's supposed to be getting close to being ready. They're the number one defense of football by almost all the numbers. And so a lot of people who have questioned the Dolphins, this is their week where they're eager to see, is this offense for real? And of course, the Dolphins face them without their best offensive lineman. And so we won't truly get an estimation, but they're going to have to do a lot, the Dolphins coaches, the Dolphins offensive line, to manage these guys up front so they don't wreck this game. And, this is a game we're really going to see the importance of Teron Armstead. But I think in the big picture, it's good news for this week. And obviously the short term, you're going to really miss him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. They're definitely going to end up missing him. All right, what do you do this week? How do you what's your I mean, listen, it's impossible to guess what the hell Mike McDaniel's going to do.
Right.
He keeps us completely off balance every week, and I'm sure he's doing it to his opponents too at the same time. How do you handle this? Do you go back with I would think you put Shell back at right tackle, right? But what do you do at left tackle?
Yeah, I mean, there's no right answer here. I know they signed Kendall Lamb to the practice squad. I don't imagine that it's going to be him because you're going to need time to get ready. The other option there is obviously Greg Little, which is not a great option, but you don't have a lot of really good options there, to be honest. I think regardless of who you put in there, you're going to have to help that side more than anything. I mean, they don't really like to play the game where you move a different guy to a different position, but obviously if they wanted to, they could try to put Eichenberg and see if he would be a guy at left tackle because he's played there before. And obviously, you have Robert Jones who can play left guard, and you try to make it work there if you really wanted to, or you plug in one of the guys off the bench. And so, this is a situation where the 49ers know it's an issue. The Dolphins know it's an issue. And so as a coaching staff, you got to say, all right, we've been dealt the hand we've been dealt. How do we mitigate it? The good thing is Tua's left-handed, so it's not his blind side. He can see the free guy coming if he's coming all day. But ideally, I think you send a lot of running back chips. You have a lot of Durham Smythe playing, and he's on the field as a full-time blocker for a lot of the snaps. And you just play with a lot less 3 and 4 receiver sets.
Max protect.
Yeah, max protect. You see a lot of Tyreek and Jalen running 2 receiver sets out there and get open, and you see a lot less of Cedric Wilson, River Craycraft, and Trent Sherfield. That's the way I foresee it. But like you said, Mike McDaniel's a mystery guy. Maybe he comes out and says, heck, we're throwing 5 receiver sets and we're throwing it in 1 second. But I don't expect that to happen. But, my thought is that, hey, we go max protect, we minimize our receiver sets, and we try to have Tyreek, Jalen, and our running backs be the guy that killed them in the passing game.
Yeah, I think it'll be Shell at right tackle. I felt so bad for him when they moved him over to the left because the poor guy, he's not a left, and he was doing everything habitually on the right. And all of a sudden, hey, just go over. And people don't realize how difficult
it's hard.
It is.
It's hard.
It's near impossible.
There's the great quote. I think it was one interior Dolphins inside lineman few years ago. I can't remember who it was, but maybe it was Jesse Davis. He mentioned that switching sides was like wiping your butt with your opposite hand. You can do it, but it's not comfortable.
Right.
I always think about that when I think about offensive line play. I'm like, hey, if I did, I guess I could do it, but it might be a little bit messier than it should be, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really tough. I felt bad for him. So I think he'll go right. I think Greg Little will get the left because he's the healthy one since Austin isn't. And then Austin can at least help out as a 6th lineman, or Durham Smythe can help out as a 6th lineman. I know they've wanted to keep Michael Dieter focused on center. Mm-hmm. So they've had him locked in backing up Connor for sure. But he has played tackle, not only at Wisconsin, but he also played tackle for the Dolphins in his first year. I think they played him at right tackle, I think, to fill in or something for a game. And so maybe you use him on the outside as a 6th lineman at the same time. The good thing is, when I watch San Francisco games, Bosa lines up actually on the left side.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that you're going to be able to roll away from Bosa, okay, and you can have 2 guys on the left side to help buy him some time. So I think changing the launch point also will be something important for the Miami Dolphins, that you don't keep him back there all the time, that you do a lot of boots and waggles with him to the right and to the left, but a lot of them maybe to the left away from Boza. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, because actually Shell will be dealing with Boza, not the left tackle.
Right. Yeah, they will have, like I said, I think Shell, you obviously still have to give help for Boza, but the left side still has to get help as well, because they're not just a one-man defensive line. You know, they've got some dudes out there, and they don't blitz a lot. They just let their guys go up front. So it's not like, you know, the ideal thing is, hey, get the ball out quicker, right? Throw the short passes. But this team drops 7 in coverage. And they're really good as a coverage group. And so, you know, this is really honestly a bad game. There's not a good game to not have your start, but this is a bad game not to have Teron Armstead. And so they're going to have to figure out some things. The running game is going to have to be huge. And it's another tough week for that, because the 49ers, like a lot of defensive categories, are number 1 in run defense in the league. And so you've got Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, who, by the way, have a lot to prove. They're playing their former team. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's already been a little bit of back and forth in social media. You know, Debo didn't like what Raheem said in Tyler Dunn's story about Tua, about Jimmy G. And, you know, Raheem said he was taken out of context. There was a back and forth. And so, you know, these guys felt like San Fran dumped them for different reasons, for injuries, or for Jeff Wilson because McCaffrey showed up. And so they want to have a big game. And the Dolphins definitely, that to me, I think is going to be the key to the game. Obviously, they're going to have to protect, but can this team have 100 yards rushing? To me, that's the difference between winning and losing. If you gave me a guess, it gave me a number. If it's over 100 for the Dolphins, they win rushing. If it's lower than 100, they lose. That's to me the story I see, because I think Tyreek and Jalen will get some of theirs, but maybe not a historically big day. And at some point, they're going to need to get a few first downs if they have a lead, or be able to get in field goal range late in the game to take the lead. And a lot of that comes from your backs.
Well, this is one of those games where Mike McDaniel's going to have to coach him up, man. And this is one of those games that really defines you as a coach, because they've lost those 3 games without Tua. Okay, now you have Tua. Can you adjust with Tua, but losing obviously a huge piece in Teron Armstead? Because we have noticed a couple of things. When Tua's out of the game, there's an enormous drop-off, whoever is quarterback after him. And we've also noticed that if Teron Armstead is out, there's an enormous drop-off after he gets out. There aren't a lot of those players, because Byron Jones, you've been able to overcome. Brandon Jones, you've been able to overcome. You're not really replacing them, but you're still kind of hanging in there, and you're playing pretty well. You're getting things done overall. But, brother, when those 2 guys are out, there is no replacing those guys. So this is all on McDaniel and his staff to scheme this thing up like they've never schemed it before.
Yeah, and I'm excited, man. Like to be real, like I've had very positive and high expectations for this team since I've seen them play. But the reality is, these next 6 games, we're going to see the difference between, is this team a fun playoff contender who can compete late and do something they haven't done in a few years, or is this team truly a Super Bowl contender? You know, because that's the question that's still lingering. I think a lot of Dolphins fans are hopeful, like, oh man, we go on a run, we win a Super Bowl, right? But you haven't played a 49ers team on the road without Teron Armstead. Like that's a playoff matchup. Heck, it wouldn't shock me if that's a Super Bowl type matchup. 49ers could definitely make it to the Super Bowl. And so this is a type of game where you could see if we can hang with the big boys. You know, it's different than the Browns and the Texans. You got the 49ers, you got the Chargers, you got the Bills, you got the Patriots. I probably missed somebody. Oh, Packers. Don't worry about them. But you got the Patriots, and then you finish up with the Jets. Those are 5 out of the 6 teams are competing for playoff spots. And so, you know, those guys got injuries too. And so, you know, the reality is the coaching staff, Mike McDaniel, Josh Boyer on the defensive staff, this is where these guys are going to show their true worth. Because if they go 1-5, 2-4 down the stretch, and you know, either don't make the playoffs or get bounced in the first round, all the good feels of the first 10 games of the season are going to be sour. And so I'm eager to see it. I'm not super worried about them, but I'm eager to see what they do. I think they'll come up to the challenge, but it'll certainly be a challenge.
I kind of talked about the hell that was going on in the prior year with Flo behind the scenes. Remember, I would tell you he's been running roughshod through the building, and so were you surprised that Tua was that open this weekend with the CBS people and talking about that? Because obviously that can happen to any of us. We can all question our abilities in anything when somebody doesn't believe in us, or we get fired or cut or whatever it is, in life. You kind of question yourself at times. Were you surprised that he was that open? Because it seems like he has been willing to be more open lately.
No, and because of that, because of lately, we've seen a different version of him. And I think it's at the core of what we're all talking about. Mike McDaniel has pulled a different level of confidence and comfort out of him that he hadn't had his first 2 years in the NFL under Flo. And so you look at a situation where this is a guy who we all saw him a little bit in a shell. You see him, the way he's interacting with us in the media. He's kind of, you can see his body language. You can see that this is not a guy that's comfortable and happy. And now we've seen a complete 180. And so now you hear some of the stories, like there's always behind the scenes stories that we don't fully grasp, what a player's thinking. Like we weren't going to know that about Tua unless he told it. That's not something that's just like a public thing. But I think that Tua now is feeling more comfortable within himself, within his skin, within the scheme, within his coach, that he can share how he's feeling, how he's developed. And obviously he's given a lot of credit to Mike McDaniel. Like, I know a lot of Dolphins fans don't like when credit's given elsewhere because they think it's taken away from Tua. I think differently. I think you can give credit for Mike McDaniel rebuilding Tua's confidence and rebuilding him to a position where he can have this type of season. You can give credit to Tyreek and Waddle for giving him the speed he needed to be that, and still say that Tua himself is a big part of his reasoning. So I think Mike McDaniel, to me, and maybe I'm biased because I live here and I report out of here a lot of times, to me, he's got to be the front runner for Coach of the Year.
Well, with all the injuries, I'm not sure.
The way they're contending and the way what he's done for Tua. There's no other coach they had 3-4 offensive coordinators. Nobody gave us even a glimpse of this version of Tua on or off the field. And clearly it was in him. Clearly this is the college version that was in him. He just needed somebody who could bring it out. And so to me, that's a huge part of it. And the other part of it is you got a team that's 8-3 and playing really good ball, become one of the best offenses in football. And of course they got to finish the job. All that I'm saying about Tua and McDaniel, like I said, it gets decimated if you don't finish down the stretch, but they put themselves in really good position. And now it's just about finishing this hard stretch. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to win them all, but just win a few and get yourself in the playoffs, and anything can happen.
I'm just glad I don't look like a nutbag anymore. That's all. Because all I did was defend that dude and say, I think I ran it by you. I said, hey, if he was with the Rams, he wins the Super Bowl. If he goes to Minnesota, he takes him farther than Kirk Cousins. If he goes to Tennessee, he takes him farther than Ryan Tannehill would. I said that last year. To me, that's. Yeah. I know what I said. I know that I know I believe in this kid, that I know he can play ball, dude. I saw it in Alabama. Yeah. I saw him with a real coach, with real talent around him, with real offensive coordinators, with a real QB coach. The Darrell Bevell thing goes under the fucking radar, bro.
Yep.
Nobody talks about that. We keep talking Mike McDaniel, but we got to give Mike McDaniel credit for bringing a real quarterback coach, guy that's worked with Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Absolutely. He didn't have that, dude. He had some guy that was with him in 7-on-7s in high school. Yep. What the hell is that, dude? I like Charlie Fry personally, but he wasn't ready as a coach. He wasn't grooming NFL quarterbacks. Darrell Bevell's been grooming NFL quarterbacks for years, dude, and he's worked
really good ones too. Really good ones.
Frank Smith on the offensive line. You go get Matt Applebaum from Boston College, because Lord knows in Boston College, if something they've been able to do is develop offensive linemen over there, and then obviously McDaniel. What you needed was the structure around the guy and some talent, and God bless McDaniel, bro, for bringing that structure around the damn guy.
And I'll give you even more credit. I'm giving Big O too much credit on a Tuesday, but I'll give you even more credit because your big thing was that you felt like, and we haven't seen it fully to fruition, but you felt like a lot of the offensive coaches did not maximize the talent or the skill set of players, particularly on the offensive line. And two of the guys you just mentioned, Frank Smith, Matt Alkbaum, have helped this offensive line. They're not elite.
Connor plays center. They switched them
exactly.
center.
And to be honest, that was a question I had. I had a big question about Connor playing center. I told you all offseason, like, I'm not afraid to say what I was saying. Like, I was worried mostly because he was having issues with snapping in camp. And so I'm like, man, you're moving a guy to guard from center for the first time. I'm not in love with that call, but the coaches saw something. They felt like he could be really good at it, and they were on the money because he has been really, really good as the anchor there. They knew exactly what they were doing there, and that's been a big part of it. And so, yeah, these coaches, like I said, we've 10 games. So I don't want to crown them as these dudes are the best dudes to ever coach. But so far, through 10 games or 11 games, they made the right call on a lot of these offensive hires. And it really has been the key for this offense being one of the best in football. And just think about that. Just think about how we've talked about the Dolphins offense, the Dolphins offensive line, the Dolphins passing game in the last 5 years to after 11 games saying without equivocation, with complete confidence that they are one of the best offenses in football this season. And like, not be saying that as a hyperbole or not saying it to please Dolphins fans, like saying it because that's what I see and that's what the numbers say. That is a heck of a turnaround.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And by the way, the other thing is, I think Josh Boyer, I think people need to get off his ass already, dude. Leave him alone. Guy's done a really good job overall with all those freaking injuries. It changed his defense because he could not play the defense he wanted because he did not have the secondary anymore that he had, the year before, and that was the plan. And so now he's had to adjust to it, and he's brought in a whole bunch of guys, just like these guys converted Connor to center. Robert Hunt's playing almost at a Pro Bowl level. Robert Jones has come in and played really, really solid. Yeah, I was actually really excited for Austin Jackson because he was showing progress in the offseason, and that high ankle injury has completely taken him away from any of the progress that he was making in the offseason. And I thought he was the other guy that was actually going to show you something with Robert Hunt, but unfortunately it has not materialized. But still, with that said, you get Brandon Shell off the street and you make him serviceable for 3 weeks at right tackle. Yep. They have done a marvelous job of maximizing this roster, and so has Josh Boyer.
Yep. The offensive line has not been a weakness this year. And that is something that it's been a very, very long time. And they haven't been, like I said, they haven't been elite. Sometimes they've been slightly below average, sometimes they've been slightly above average, but they have not been a huge weakness. We have not gone in a game, or not many games this year, where we were like, man, the offensive line just got their butt kicked that game. It just hasn't happened. Whereas in previous years, they would sometimes win in spite of their offensive line. And so that's a big, as much as we, it's not fun for TV. I'm not honestly going to talk a ton about offensive line play, although I will talk today about offensive line play without Tehran. But the offensive line the improvement has been great for the offense. I'm eager to see how they respond down the stretch. Like I said, a lot of challenges. We'll see.
Danielle Bruzuela is sent in a super chat. But I think he's out for the year. He says Liam Eichenberg had MCL almost 5 weeks ago. Is he nearing returning? Isn't he done for the year?
I don't think he's done for the year. So I mentioned him earlier because I was planning to, or I hope somebody plans to, if I'm not there, ask for where his clarification is. But if I remember right, I thought that he wasn't fully ruled out. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought when it came out, it was a MCL, but it wasn't fully torn. And so that there were hope that he was going to be back. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but from what I thought was that he was going to potentially be back.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's interesting. I thought he was done pretty much for the year. Well, we'll see. We'll see if he can actually add some depth, because there's no way he's taking the job back from Robert Jones. I would think if Robert continues to play at the level he's playing, you stick with him. All right, what do you got working on the NFL Network this week?
I will be on TV in about an hour 15-ish, talking some Dolphins 49ers. And so I'll be there with Steve Weich in the first segment, talking some Dolphins 49ers. Fun storylines there. And so we'll banter for about 4 or 5 minutes about this game. He'll actually be the guy at the game this week. Unfortunately, they don't want to send the Miami guy cross country to Cali. I guess they think I might get stuck or something. So I've got Cincinnati and the Bengals Chiefs, which will also be a good game. But just being frank, I would have probably a tad rather be at Dolphins 49ers. But I'll be talking with that with
San
him in the
Francisco, Cincinnati.
Yeah. They're both going to be really good games. They're both going to be really good. Like, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
You got Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. Excellent game. But I am so pumped to see what Tua and this offense does against that 49ers D. And so Steve Weiss will be the reporter for that game, but I'm still talking that game throughout the week. And second hour, I'll be talking with Blvd, who I love. And I'm sure he'll talk plenty offensive line because he knows the big boys in the trenches. So
and
he's going to give some breakdowns.
Mike McDaniel, bro.
And he loves Mike McDaniel. So I'll be talking some Dolphins 49ers with him in the second hour. So definitely check it out. My last hit's at 2:25, and I'm going to jet to a TV to see this USA soccer game. And I'll be back on TV Thursday talking some ball too. And then Sunday, like I mentioned, I will be at the Bengals Chiefs game. So that's my week.
All right. Enjoy the White Castle in Cincinnati.
I'm not trying the chili. I've not yet, and I
No.
My stomach.
That's so overrated, bro.
Yeah.
It really is very overrated. But White Castle, late at night when you're, you've had a party night, it's the perfect place to straighten out before you get back to the hotel. So that's all I'm saying. All right. We will talk later on in the week, my friend. You be good.
Sounds good. You too.
There you go. The Wolf Pack has been unleashed.
This is the